Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Bryant Wolford coming right back at you. Now, don't worry, this isn't me changing things up entirely. As the description says, I'm just a regular dude discussing what he likes. And I figured since it's so close to Christmas as the time of this recording, it's December 19th when I'm recording this. By the way, I'm at work, so any additional things you hear, don't worry about it. But I figured since it was so close to the Christmas holiday that I would give you guys a top 5 countdown of what is one of my favorite Christmas stories. That would be A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Now, you probably heard this all before. Elderly curmudgeon in Ebenezer Scrooge gets visited one Christmas Eve by the ghost of his late business partner, Jacob Marley, who tells him that if he doesn't change his ways, he's doomed to damnation. And throughout the entire night, he will be visited by 3 spirits. And at the end of the day, well, actually, not the end of the day, but the following Christmas morning, he is shown the error of his ways, and he changes for the better. And yeah, written by Charles Dickens, showing the difference in class of his time, where the poor, happy, simple folk are seen as better than their curmudgeon, miserly, unhappy upper class counterparts. It has become a holiday staple no matter what decade you're in, because almost every single year or so they come with a brand new one. But I'm here to talk about 5 new ones. Well, not new ones, but my 5 favorite. My mistake. But we're going to start out with some honorable mentions. Starting at the very bottom. This might sound bizarre to people, but the 1990 Hallmark film starring Sir Patrick Stewart. Reason being because, I like Patrick Stewart, he is a good actor, but sorry, it's so hard not to see it just being it as a Star Trek simulation on the holodeck for Next Generation. Just saying. Next up after that would be the 2004 musical, again made by Hallmark, but starring Kelsey Grammer. And Frasier makes a very, very good Scrooge, along with amazing music by Alan Menken. Now, following that, we have, now this might seem blasphemous, especially for a lot of people who grew up probably watching reruns of this or had parents who showed it to them, but I gotta say Scrooged, starring Bill Murray. I don't know. It's just something about watching Venkman try and get told about the holiday spirit by ghosts that somewhat throws me off. Also, Bill Murray, while hilarious, has never really struck me as being a great person to play Scrooge, no matter what decade I'm in. But if you like it, you like it. Remember, these are just my thoughts. Don't hate me for it, but Scrooge is definitely an honorable mention. I will not deny I will love that if it's on. And right after that is the most straightforward story version, pretty much starring Jim Carrey in 2009, made by the Walt Disney Company, is a computer-generated film, and using 3D when it was released in theaters. That one, again, phenomenal cast. It does capture the horror that was present, because what people tend to forget is, it's a Christmas story, but it's a ghost story. It does, the visuals and all do capture the horror, and the Disney charm is there a bit, because we all do know that Disney can get pretty dark at times, but it's just, CGI and like that. It was meant to be seen in 3D, and just watching it on your home entertainment system is just like so jarring, and even not even getting into uncanny valley that it can get ridiculous. But again, it's a good movie. I don't hate it. It's just not in my top five. But now moving on to my top five, that would be number five, the 1951 version starring Alistair Sim. Yeah, it's a black and white film, but hey, watching something that's old isn't going to hurt you. And if you want to watch the colorized version, you can. But something about the black and white cinematography just works for, like what I said, is a ghost story. And it also gives you a little more detail on what Scrooge does with his money lending business and how he came to be in that business. Well, I mean, yes, we all know he goes and works with Fezziwig, but this shows how he and Jacob became business owners and how that led. It also does show Scrooge's sister Fan, the mother of his nephew Fred, dying, which, yeah, it's always implied, and we know that's one thing that Scrooge holds against Fred, which I'll get to in the next entry, and why that kind of becomes a bit of hypocrisy on Scrooge's part. But you get to see some of the things that did hurt him a little bit more and better. But I've also got to say, Alistair Sim, great performance. Downside being the guy who they got to play Jacob Marley. I mean, it is kind of over the top. I mean, when another character who comes up later in an entry, Goofy, and another one who comes up in another entry, Statler, from the Muppets, and Goofy from Disney can make the character terrifying. The fact that this guy kind of makes Jacob goofy, no pun intended, is hilarious and takes away from what's supposed to be a terrifying encounter. Moving on to number four. Now, this is the most recent themed theme, not exactly modern themed, but made most modern one. It came out in 2017. It was, I believe, it was made by Amazon for Amazon Prime, so you can find it there if you've got it. But it takes a different route because it shows Charles Dickens. Yeah, you follow Charles Dickens as he comes up with the idea for A Christmas Carol, the debts he's placed in, the wager that's made, how he draws inspiration for the characters, everything. And it is a nice way to look at it through the creator's eyes. And yeah, I know it's called The Man Who Invented Christmas, but kind of, because when you think Christmas, aside from the nativity story, if there's one story you think of, it is the Christmas Carol, because of how ingrained in society it's become since Dickens wrote it. And you get to see, like I said, where Charles Dickens got his inspiration. And when I said that Charles Dickens would draw inspiration on this, he drew inspiration from the upper class and the lower class, which he was right in that middle, that working class that eventually worked his way up. So you could see where his unique perspective comes from. And that is honestly one of the biggest draws of it. Aside from an awesome performance by Christopher Plummer as Ebenezer Scrooge. I mean, seriously, I cannot get that. I cannot justify that enough. Number three, 1985. Not 1985, 1984. Simply called A Christmas Carol, starring George C. Scott. Yes, General Patton played everyone's favorite miser, Ebenezer Scrooge. And with this one, you don't exactly get the sense that Scrooge hates the holiday, but just so much bad crap has happened through it. Things like Scrooge's dad sent him off and is never to boarding school after the death of his mother, which this ties back into the 1951, where Fred is held in contempt by Scrooge because his sister Fan, Fred's mother, died giving birth to Fred, which Scrooge's father is said to blame Scrooge for. Implied in the book, not as heavily as much as it is in this version, which he's kept his son away from home for so many years that it's only after the intervention of Fan and possibly the ghosts that visit Scrooge that he changes his mind. But then immediately after being said, yeah, you can come home, he's shipped off like 2-3 days afterwards to start his apprenticeship. He never comes home. Fan, the only light he really saw around the holiday season, dies again so close to it. And of course, the whole thing of his fiance leaves him so close to Christmas, and it's just like you get with it. And then Jacob Marley, his like business partner and really only friend, dies so close to Christmas that you just get the feeling that Scrooge doesn't hate it. It's just like everything bad that's happened to me is so closely related to Christmas, or has happened around it, that just like, no, I'm done. He's built up barriers. And even then, when his barriers are starting to come down, he still reverts back to his businessman mentality. At one point, he says to the ghost of Christmas Present, without Bob Cratchit's right, without me, there would be no goose. There would be no Christmas dinner. And it's like, you get the idea where Scrooge is like, he's just been on the defensive so much that it's hard for him to accept anything else. And I mean, again, also the effects and everything and writing and acting is so good. You forget that this was a movie that was made for TV. Yeah, this made for TV movie, which we all joke about these days because of how ridiculous they are and have been, this is so good. I rank it as one of the top 5 versions of A Christmas Carol ever. But let's move on from live action to animated. Yes, there's been a ton of those throughout the years, but if there's one that I have to rank, and is one of the top 5 Christmas carols of all time, and it's also gotta be the number 2 on this list, it's Walt Disney's 1983 Mickey's Christmas Carol, starring Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Donald, Goofy, as versions of characters on the show, along with members like Daisy. Hell, even the Big Bad Wolf and the 3 Little Pigs get in a little brief cameo throughout the scene. Hell, it's got it's got Mr. Toad from The Wind in the Willows along with Rat and Mole. I mean, it's got the Weasels from that too. It's got Pete. And of course, Scrooge McDuck as Ebenezer Scrooge himself. Yeah, it's only about 30 minutes, but it hits all the points. And just Alan Young, so good. And his acting just portrays how hurt Scrooge is from the things that have happened, which he even sees are kind of his fault. Also, it's one of the things where it has a pretty dark moment, which I love that when Disney does some dark stuff, because it, I don't know if it borrows from another one, but there's another version where Scrooge is actually sent to hell by the ghost of Christmas Future. and he's told by Jacob Marley the devil's waiting for his new accountant while he's being fitted with his chains. And in Mickey's Christmas Carol, you get Pete not just pointing out that it's Ebenezer Scrooge's grave, but he goes, "Why, it's yours, Ebenezer, the richest man in the cemetery." And he laughs as the coffin opens, and you literally see like Scrooge about to fall to hell, while literally what's supposed to look like the devil is laughing. It is just, it hits all, like I said, it hits all the high points, but it's just cute enough that kids will love it and not be absolutely terrified, and just fun enough that any adult who loves Disney will get transported back to being a kid when it's one of the first times they saw it. But now, you ask, what could be number one? Well, this ties into Disney because, like how number two was a bit of a love letter to Walt's vision of what his company's stuff could be, this one was made not so long after its founder's death, the 1992 A Muppet Christmas Carol. Yes, I know. You're thinking, what, really? But hear me out. With this, you get the hurt version, played by Michael Caine, that you see in 1984. You get the fact that there's barriers he's built up, but with it being what is the Muppets, it is such a nice, soft version that, just like Disney's, hits all the high points. And the fact that it's a musical, like the 2004 one, this is one of the better ones when it comes to musical, because Muppets are good at that. The songs it has are so good. I mean, I will never get over Kermit the Frog singing "After All." I'll never get over Kermit going singing "After all, there's only one more sleep till Christmas." It is just fun. High points being it covers, add the fact that it has Gonzo acting as Charles Dickens, so you're almost like with The Man Who Invented Christmas, you're almost getting it directly from the horse's mouth. And it's got the Muppet charm with just so much of the original story. I can't stress that enough. And add the fact that this and Mickey's Christmas Carol were the first things that introduced it. Yeah, it's nostalgia talking, but I have got to say, it's a culmination of everything from the tenderness of the story that it can bring to the loving care that the Jim Henson production company did, is what makes, along with hitting all the bullet points and them having so much to work off, and a phenomenal performance by Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. I mean, that is why my number one Christmas Carol is A Muppet Christmas Carol. But hey, let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. If you like what I do here on the channel, don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, because it does help me in the algorithm. I'll see you all next time. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Goodbye, my friends.